Today, we are checking out a new expansion, a new unofficial expansion for a 27-year-old game. You might have heard the term narrative RPG. It refers to games like Disco Elysium or Zero Parades, RPGs in which the writer's craft is central to the experience, and the rest of the project is built around that. One of the earlier examples of this kind of game is PLANESCAPE Torment from 1999. It's set in the Dungeons & Dragons multiverse. The events take place in Sigil, the City of Doors, a hub of interplanar travel, political intrigue, and bountiful economic activity. But there is trouble in the planes. The entire multiverse trembles as the endless blood war marches on, an ancient conflict fought between two infinite armies of fiends, the devils of Beator and the Tanari of the Abyss. The blood war has no beginning or an end. We are an ancient being, cursed with immortality and memory loss, who has forgotten his name and will not remember it until the game's final scenes. The story follows his attempt to piece together his past and understand the nature of the curse. That's what the game is about. However, inside PLANESCAPE Torment, there are traces of another plot. At one point, we meet the devils Tagarin and Ethelgrin. They are acting like we are old friends, but this interaction never develops into anything. In another scene, we meet a lawyer, an advocate Infernus from the hellish realm of Beator. We have no memory of this, but there is evidence that we might have worked with him before. But why would we need a lawyer from hell? Unless we did something real stupid. Like selling our soul to the devil. The Fiend affair is explored in the new expansion for the game, called Blizzard in Beator, available in Polish and English. Here is a fact sheet. Expect a very high level of authenticity overall. There are 3 chapters planned. Currently, only Act 1 is finished. It's roughly 8 hours of gameplay, give or take. The content is integrated seamlessly into the main game, and it's about pursuing someone from our past life. The original past life. Someone who knew us before the curse. Blizzard in Beator begins during the penultimate act of PLANESCAPE Torment. The Nameless One has assembled a band of companions. He traveled across Sigil and the Outer Planes, uncovered the secret of Zerthimon, confronted the Lying Angel, and spoken with the Night Hag, who cursed him with immortality.
Fortune abandoned you the moment I found you.
Ravel sacrifices herself to break the spell she conjured, the true final antagonist is revealed, and the Nameless One returns to Sigil one last time to make his final preparations before confronting the Transcendent One.
Has your life prepared you for what is to come?
And that's when a stranger stops us in the street to let us know that our old friends would like a word at the Smoldering Corpse bar. And the adventure begins again. Of course, this all takes place very late in the story, and most individuals won't have a save prepared. So the developers have conveniently placed this NPC at the game's starting location.
Updated my journal.
It's a shortcut. By talking to the zombie, we can customize our class, alignment, party composition, and story progress, allowing us to start the expansion without having to replay the entire game. I took this opportunity to create a thief Nameless One, which seems to be rarely done.
Self-exposed, idiot.
This turned out to be a good decision, because there are a lot of traps and locked containers in this. Another good decision would be to say thank you to Boot.dev, this video's sponsor. Boot.dev offers a curriculum designed to teach you how to code in an engaging, fast-paced, and addictive way. The goal is to trick your brain into learning useful skills by using features like XP and levels. Learn programming from start to finish in Python. Learn how to set up and use Linux the way a developer would. All content is free to read and watch. A paid membership simply unlocks advanced features. Go to boot.dev and use my code Warlockracy to get 25% off your entire first year on the annual plan. That's boot.dev. So we're back in Sigil, the cage, the city of secrets, the self-proclaimed center of the multiverse. Sigil does not have a fixed size or dimensions. These are changed at will by the Lady of Pain, a being of immense power who rules Sigil. This is the Smoldering Corpse Bar. The corpse in question has joined our party, so it's no longer on display. And these are our old friends. Tegerin, the thrice damned, so named for his ability to find the best in every situation, and the Thelgrin, who has earned himself no special name, though not for the lack of trying. Nameless One, good to see you made it back, and the planes did not consume you, yes. The devils get to the point. A long time ago, we were comrades in arms, fighting against the demonic horde in the Blood War. And there was someone else with us. Tegerin presents a red helmet. It's very old. She wore this when you last met. The Nameless One memories tend to resurface when he sees objects from his past. Of course we know her. She was everything to us, back when we were still mortal. How could we ever forget her? I think it worked. The blood is staring off into the distance, as if he forgot he exists. Her name is Fury Vehement. She went missing in Mephistar, a city located in the 8th layer of Beator, in the frozen hell of Cania. The devils want us to find that woman. Naturally, the first step is to sign a contract. Can I read it first? The fiends bust into laughter. He thinks we are after his soul. Our soul is owned by a fiend from another department. Nevertheless, of course you can. The devil is in the details after all. The succubus fall from grace is the closest we have to a lawyer, and she says the contract is fine. So how do we get to the 8th layer of hell? Sigil is the city of doors. Certainly there is a portal leading to Cania around here somewhere. Finding it is the first step. We have a lead that one such portal is located in the part of the city we haven't explored yet. The ditch is the largest body of water in Sigil, if you can call it that. The water is highly corrosive. The great foundry, Sigil's industrial heart, dumps its waste directly into the river. A corpse thrown into the ditch will become unrecognizable within a matter of hours. The ditch is also the name of the community on the riverbank. The expansion adds more than 25 new locations in total. Most of them are fairly small. In terms of sheer amount of content, this area is comparable to the Hive, one of the major social environments in the old game. One advantage of placing the expansion this late in the adventure is that it gives us a chance to spend more time with characters we barely got to know in the original. For example, our friend Valor, a disembodied spirit of a policeman, seems to prefer being in hell to being in the ditch. Beator is a place of absolute law. The Mercy Killer's justice precedes infernal law, but in most cases they align either way. He explains that the lawmen of Sigil have many arrangements with the devils, treaties covering extradition, logistical cooperation, and legal representation. The devils of Cania abide by rules. The scum of Sigil are chaos. This game, like the old Torment, is a tour of Planescape concepts. Here is a Yagnoloth, a massive fiend looking for were-rat thieves. Alviro the Angel is healing the sick. A modern librarian, who is also a library. A skeleton with a mangled skull who does everything in threes because he was traumatized by an evil person in his past. We are all trying to find the guy who did this. If that looks like a statue of a Greek goddess, then that's because it is. The Greek and ancient Egyptian pantheons are part of Planescape cosmology, just like Forgotten Realms or Dragonlands. This person calls us Mr. Thane. It's a reference to this Planescape Torment book, where the story is quite different. Anna is a were-rat, Dakon is just sort of a goof, and the nameless one is called Thane. There are several drinking establishments in this part of Sigil, each catering to a different clientele.
There's much to be learned from all parts of society.
The Styx Oarsman is a bar for fiends. This one is called Agraval, the slayer of 300 Mariliths. He wants us to find his lost friend. Someone put way too much effort into making a cutscene for a quest that is not particularly important. I love it. The Rivergate Tavern is the most normal of all the drinking establishments, but it's still, Planescape normal. Akershus is a musical performer. One of his songs is about Sigil's urban planners designating a city block as debris and evicting its residents into the sewers. That was some excellent social commentary, a very ironic piece. Terrorizing the ditch is a tribe of fishmen. There are several ways of getting rid of them. Being an immortal, we can ask to be sacrificed on the altar.
Updated my journal.
Naturally, this doesn't kill us, and the Kuatoa are impressed. By becoming the prophet of the fish people, we can start issuing commandments. Careful, Thane. The lady doesn't take kindly to religions in her domain, perceiving them as a force that threatens the neutrality of Sigil.
Done.
That's a very tastefully decorated house, sitting right in the middle of the slums. I wonder who lives here. The strange creature has both angelic and infernal features. Immortal, how dare you show up in my home? Meet Kabatum the Summoner. We have fought this individual before. In fact, we have fought many times. Kabatum still exists, so evidently we were defeated. He is what is called a concordant killer, a lawful neutral entity hired by powers, deities, or demon lords to hunt the enemies of the gods. A cursed immortal is exactly the sort of multiversal anomaly they are meant to deal with. You have no idea what a thorn in our side you have become. We keep running into Kabatum and dying at his hands, because sooner or later the Nameless One always returns to Sigil, which happens to be Kabatum's domain. I have destroyed you several times, but it made no difference. You finally began searching for a cure to your condition, and I thought it best to leave matters into your own hands. After doing some research, we discovered that the key that opens the portal to the ice hell of Cania is a bone of a frost giant. To obtain this very rare item, we'll have to team up with a bunch of Baldur's Gate characters. The man on the stage is Dalis, an actor with the Sigil troupe. You might remember him from the sensational Baldur's Gate 2, where he appears as a companion. At this point of the timeline, however, the events of that game have not happened. The troupe has not yet been hunted by planar mercenaries and imprisoned. Dalis is a member of the Doomguard faction. They believe that the death of the universe is both inevitable and a good thing. The enemies of the Doomguard are the Fated, who believe that might makes right. If you can take something, you are its rightful owner. The faction conflicts in Planescape are like teenagers feuding over musical taste. The Fated are after the troupe because the actors have insulted them. But isn't that somewhat allowed under Licentia Poetica? One cannot be punished for what art is supposed to do, which is commenting on reality around us. Very interesting. He probably said the N-word. So let's go talk to the leader of the Fated, the frost giant Ulfbrand, who resides in Isgard, the place of glory, inspiration, and creativity. The music and the visuals contrast with the ditch, and I like it. It's normal for a Sigil faction to have infrastructure outside of the city, and even on a different plane. This is the whole of the Fated, and that would be Ulfbrand, the Frost Giant, and his wolf companion. We need a Frost Giant bone to advance the main quest, but fighting him here is meaningless. While in Isgard, he cannot be killed.
Damn.
The faction war is the biggest thing going on in Act 1 of the expansion, and in the best traditions of classic CRPG modding, it's ridiculously, megalomaniacally over-designed. Before triggering the final battle, which will happen in an alleyway in Sigil, you can send dispatches to the various allies you have gathered throughout the adventure. The Anarchists, the Dustmen, Believers of the Source, the Sensates. Some factions are rivals and will turn on each other instead of the enemy. The battle itself plays out like a Pillars of Eternity style text adventure. Its underlying mechanics are elaborate. The outcome depends on dozens of variables. Either side can win. Or neither. Isgardian berserkers clash with summoned beasts. Smoke clouds choke the sky. And then there is no sound anymore. She has arrived. As the lady's gaze passes over the combatants, they vanish, erased from existence. Both the Doomguard and the Fated are unmade. Oh well, I'll cry every day. We finally have our portal key. The reason they call him Kabatum the Summoner is because when he sets out on a planar journey, he has a habit of conjuring a magical guide, instead of relying on biased locals like Mort. A reasonable policy. I used to know a man who advised me to do the same. We shall not suffer the indignations of the past. It's time to test our party against Kabatum. So here is the plan. First, I pre-buff with Fall from Grace cleric spells, as well as with Dakon's strength spell equivalent. That by itself is good enough to handle almost anything in the original game. We open with a level 9 spell scroll, one of the most powerful abilities in the campaign. Let's also bathe him in cinematic dragonfire. Kabatum shrugs it all off. It seems +2 weapons are insufficient to harm him. Healing from grace keeps our party alive for a time, but eventually we do fall.
Looks like death's come for the bill.
And last, are you alright?
This is excellent. I'm glad the game now includes optional encounters that are this difficult. The original PLANESCAPE Torment had all sorts of powerful items and spells, but they rarely ever mattered because the game simply didn't have enough challenging encounters to make use of them.
I may be bested in battle, but I shall never be defeated.
We are ready for our expedition into the Hells. Our second expedition into the Hells this week. The helmet's shape and her age suggests that Fury Vehement is likely Erinys. The highest ranking of these tempters are sent on missions to bring important mortals into Beator. That's interesting. A spy sent to the ditch by our friends Tegerin and Athelgrin lets it slip that our true goal is to retrieve the consort of Levistus from the clutches of his enemies. Levistus is one of the most hated archdevils in the 9 Hells, imprisoned inside an iceberg. Is this our true employer? The portal to Cania will accommodate a maximum of 4 characters. This implies that maybe we'll get new companions in the Hells. Perhaps Fury Vehement would be one such companion. There goes nothing. Welcome to the 8th layer of Beator. But not all hells are places of fire. That in the distance is Mephistar, a heated citadel carved out of the ice. Near the frozen body of a slain celestial, we fight the final battle of Act 1. Akershus the Bard turns out to be an agent of a rival Beator power. Ah, Tattoo Man. I regret that our second meeting has to be under such unfortunate circumstance. Since we are missing 2 companions, this will require at least some micromanagement. The numbers are flying everywhere, and the Bard keeps teleporting around the battlefield.
Sir, I bid you to stop.
After the battle is won, we interrogate the Bard and get a hint about where the creative team might take the story in the future. Akershus was in the employ of someone connected to Mammon, the Lord of Minoris, the 3rd layer of Beator, the richest being in existence, whose only loyalty is to coin. So this is about the scheming politics of the devils. It's good to see this idea being explored. At the end of the original PLANESCAPE Torment, our protagonist gets rid of his curse and remembers much of his past. But then death finally catches up to him. Except that because he signed an infernal contract, possibly mediated by this Advocate Infernus, instead of simply dying, he is banished to the battlefields of the Blood War. He is no longer nameless, and his story is over. But I've always wondered, what would our day-to-day routine in Beator actually be like? What does it mean to be in the employ of devil generals, fighting an infinite chaos horde, saving the multiverse in the army of hell? Sort of like a planar version of the Night's Watch from the Song of Ice and Fire. The currently implemented content ends with a message from developers. In Act 2, we'll explore the Hells, and Act 3 will implement some of the original PLANESCAPE Torment concepts that did not make it into the final product. The game never introduces her, but I assume this is Fury Vehement. Blizzard in Beator. Preliminary review. The good. What worked? A lot of things did. The game world is compartmentalized into many reasonably sized maps. This is very good. The pacing is better than in the original. There are quite a few complex battles and secret bosses. Including fights like this makes items, money, and your choices matter a lot more. The cinematics are great, especially this one. Aww. Overall, the expansion feels very authentically Planescape, and I was sad when it was over. The mid. Things I don't hate but I'm not really sold on. The Hair Dalis quest is fanservice-y. There was no reason to involve the Nameless One in writing the play. After seeing the Baldur's Gate 2 take on this, my impression was that Hair Dalis joined the Baal spawn because he thought that associating with the troop was simply too dangerous. He was a moth, too close to a flame. But in this, he's in the center of it all. Moving on, assuming the remaining chapters are roughly the same size as this, the complete version of Blizzard in Beator will nearly double the size of the original game. If you spent any amount of time in the Planescape Torment community, you know that many individuals already struggle to make sense of the story. I wonder whether doubling the game's length will make it even harder to understand or easier. Blizzard in Beator. What didn't work? This is the grayest, brownest game since... I'm not sure. Even New Vegas isn't as gray-brown as this. The Bard plot is supposed to introduce an intermediate villain and bring the Fury Vehement storyline back into focus, but it doesn't really work because the Bard and his Zabishai co-conspirators are just not very developed or memorable. The new music, on the other hand, is brilliant. If you told me this was Mark Morgan's music discovered in the original game files, I would believe you. Like Black Isle's Torment, this expansion also had two composers. One of them is credited as a writer and designer. Why not listen to planar music while wearing a t-shirt from bobruisk-shop.fourthwall.com? As of the time of recording, I recommend getting Blizzard in Beator from GitHub rather than Nexus. This will probably get fixed in the future, but I simply wasn't able to get the Nexus version to work. Like and subscribe. See you in a few weeks for a book episode about a guy who invented fantasy in the Soviet Union and then became really racist against gamers.